Hello everybody, it's Helen Hotai here, founder of Form Help, and we're on the Australian Government Department of Home Affairs webpage, and I've posted a link in the description box below. So today I'll be focusing on travelling to Australia and what you need to do before you travel. So let's go ahead and click on what I need to do before I travel. Now, if English is not your first language, there's a great feature here that allows you to access this information in your own language. So click on the drop down arrow and scroll through to see if this information is available in your native tongue. So we do have Arabic, Bengali, Chinese, Greek, Hindi, Indonesian, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Persian, Portuguese, Punjabi, Sinhalese, Spanish, Tagalog, Tamil, Urdu, and Vietnamese. I apologize if I mispronounced any of those. So what I need to do before I travel. So before you travel to Australia, you should complete the Australia Travel Declaration, and that is what we are going to look at. But just note the pre-departure COVID test. So a negative COVID result is required to travel to or transit through Australia. Unless you're travelling on a quarantine-free flight from New Zealand, evidence of a negative COVID test taken 72 hours or less before your scheduled departure must be provided to your airline. Please note the additional requirements involving valid visas and exemptions. Also note quarantine requirements of 14 days at a designated facility if it applies to you. And lastly, a note to returning Australians. Please read this section if it applies to you. Now I am recording this as of Tuesday the 31st of August 2021, and please note all quarantine free flights between Australia and New Zealand are paused. Now, as noted previously, before you travel to Australia, you should complete the Australia Travel Declaration at least 72 hours before your departure. Now, the travellers who should complete the Australian Travel Declaration is Australian citizens and permanent residents, people who are automatically exempt from Australia's travel restrictions, people who have been granted an individual exemption to the current travel restrictions, and transit passengers. Now, those who do not need to complete an Australian Travel Declaration are flight crew, foreign diplomats, people travelling on military flights, and people arriving by sea. So that's both crew and passengers. Now, the Australia Travel Declaration collects your contact details in Australia, your flight details, vaccination information, quarantine requirements, and your health status. Now, this information helps the Australian government determine your quarantine arrangements if required, and also allows the relevant health departments to contact you if someone you travelled with tests positive for COVID. Now, if you do not complete the declaration, you may not be able to board your flight, or you may experience delays when you arrive in Australia. So before you come to Australia, you may also need a valid visa to enter Australia. You may need to submit an exemption to Australia's travel restrictions and authority to enter Australian states or territories. Starting your declaration. Before starting your declaration, ensure you have the following information: your passport details, vaccination details, trip information, destination details, and contact details. Next, you will need to create an account in order to submit your declaration. Once you have submitted your declaration, you can't update your answers, but you can delete the previous one and submit a new one if any details change. For example, your flight details, health status, or you need to correct a mistake. Now, parents, please note that you should complete a declaration for any children under 15 years old. Now, those 15 and up should complete their own, and there is no charge for the Australia Travel Declaration. Now, please note that giving false or misleading information to the Australian government is a serious offence. Now, if convicted, the maximum penalty is imprisonment for 12 months. Once you have completed the Australia Travel Declaration, you will receive an email confirmation with your details, which you need to present before you board your flight and on arrival in Australia. Now the email you receive will either have a green response with a tick. That means you do not need to quarantine on arrival. If you have a blue response with an hourglass, you will need to quarantine on arrival. And if you have a red response with a cross, your airline will decide if you can travel. Now, if you are allowed to travel to Australia, you will need to quarantine on arrival. Now, if you do get stuck when you are trying to create an account, please come to this support section for help. Now, I'm scrolling through, and as you can see, these are some of the areas that people commonly get caught up in. So I'm showing you this in the hope that if you do get stuck, you know where to come to get the support so that you need in order to complete the creation of your account so you can submit the Australia Travel Declaration. So we're going to scroll back up to the top and click here to complete an Australia Travel Declaration. Now, we have covered this information previously, but if you do need to pause to have another read, please do so. So, how does it work? Now, every traveller entering Australia should complete an Australia Travel Declaration 72 hours before they travel. Now, the successful submission of your declaration does not guarantee entry into Australia. This service is operated by SITA, S-I-T-A, which is authorised by the Australian Government to collect declarations on their behalf. Making your Australia Travel Declaration. Now first, you need to create an account. You will need to create an account to submit your Australia Travel Declaration. You can use this account to manage your current and future declarations in one place. Next, you need to submit your declaration. Now, each declaration is for single use and only valid for one flight or journey for the traveller named on the declaration. If you are travelling with your family or in a group, you will need to make individual declarations for each traveller in the group. And next is manage your declarations. Now, once completed, you will receive an email to be shown, either printed or electronically, before boarding your flight and on arrival in Australia, or you can access it from this account. Using your Australia Travel Declaration. So you will be asked to present your declaration before boarding your flight and on arrival in Australia. So store this safely for use on your day of travel. Now let's go ahead and select Make a New Declaration. Next, we will be transitioning to the sign-in page, and if you already have an account, just sign in with your email and the password you have chosen for this account. Now, if you haven't got an account yet, you will need to click on the Sign Up Now option in order to create an account to enable you to commence the declaration and submit it for approval. Now once you've signed in, you'll see this page again, and all you need to do is click on Make a New Declaration. Now the notes below we have covered previously, but if you need to pause to reread them, then please do so. Also note the important information about privacy. If you are happy to proceed, then select Continue. Finally, we get started. Step 1, your details. It says here, please add passport, travel document details for the person who will be travelling to Australia. Alternatively, if you have used this service before, you can select a previously saved passport, travel document from the options below. Now, the 3 options are add your passport or document details manually, use existing passport travel document, or upload your passport or travel document. Now in this example we are going to go with option 1, add your passport details manually. Okay, next we come to the travel document holder. Now there are 2 options here. I am the passport document holder, or I am submitting details on behalf of somebody else, for example a family member. Now for this example, I will just go with the first option. I am the passport document holder. Now for travel document type, if you click on the down arrow, it will give you two options of passport or ID document, and I will go with the passport. Next, put in your travel document number. In my case, it's just my passport number. Next, use the drop down arrow to select your nationality and do the same for the issuing country or state. Date of issue. Now that is the date that my passport was issued to me, and date of expiry is the expiry date of my passport. So go ahead and put in those details. Next, go ahead and put in your given names, your family name, your date of birth, and the drop down arrow to select your gender, and then press next. Okay, step 2, journey details. Please enter your flight journey details below for your flight arriving into Australia. Now you can find these details on your booking confirmation. Now if you are taking multiple flights or services within your journey, please enter the details of the flight service that actually arrives at or departs from Australia below. Now please enter your flight number in the correct format. So it's showing you the correct format there. Important, please only fill in details if you are traveling within the next 7 days. So if you are not, then you need to press cancel. You need to press cancel below and return to the Australia Travel Declaration 7 days before you are due to depart. However, if you are traveling within those 7 days, select the departure country that you are departing from, the departure date, the arrival port that you will be arriving into, your flight number, your arrival date, and when you've completed all of that, select next. Okay, let's progress to step 3, the questionnaire. Now it says here, please answer the following questions for the named traveller. Now this is in regards to the trip information. Now the first question is, are you a visitor or a temporary resident to Australia? Now select yes or no. Question 2, have you travelled in the past 14 days prior to your flight to Australia? Select yes or no. And question 3 is your phone number while you are outside of Australia. So select the country and then put in your phone number. Question 4 is email contact details when outside Australia, so put those in there. Question 5, are you transiting through Australia to another country? Select yes or no. Question 6, before you travel to or transit through Australia, you must present a negative COVID test when checking in for your flight, unless you are exempt. Now the COVID test must be taken 72 hours or less before you depart for Australia. So by clicking yes in the box below, you are acknowledging that you understand this requirement. Question 7. Has a doctor ever told you that you had COVID, or have you ever tested positive for COVID? Yes or no. Question 8. Have you ever received a COVID-19 vaccine? Yes or no. If you answered yes to that question, you will need to provide further details. Those further details include questions such as, do you have any evidence to show your vaccination history? If yes, bring your evidence with you when you travel. So in my example, I've just ticked yes, and the evidence I would take would be a vaccination card. Okay, the next question is, how many individual COVID-19 doses have you received? In my example, I've indicated 2. Next, you are required to provide the first vaccination date, the first vaccination country, and the first vaccination brand. And if you click on the drop box, it will give you the options of all the different vaccination brands. And if you have had a second vaccination, please put in those details, the second vaccination date, the second vaccination country, and the second vaccination brand of vaccine. Question 9. Do you wish to quarantine with any other travellers? Yes or no. Question 10. Will you require medical or other assistance while you are in quarantine? Yes or no. Question 11. Do you need to see a doctor when you arrive? Yes or no. Question 12. Will you require additional prescription medication to cover your 14 days in quarantine? Yes or no. Question 13. add your emergency contact details. Question 14, any other information that you would like to tell us related to your stay in quarantine, put any details in there. Question 15, are you experiencing any symptoms of COVID, such as fever, sore throat or a cough? Yes or no. And last of all, question 16, have you or anyone you are travelling with been in contact with a known case of COVID in the last 14 days? Yes or no. Now once you've finished that, click Next to proceed. Now, step 4, summary. Please review your details below before submitting your declaration. Now, you can edit your details by selecting the Edit button to the right of each section, or by using the process steps above. Now, an important to note, this declaration is only valid for the person named and travelling on the journey as specified below. So my declaration is an example only. And this is for the purpose of assisting those who need some guidance or those wanting to know what types of questions to expect. Now, don't forget to make any amendments as needed via the orange Edit button on the right before you submit your declaration. By ticking this box, I have provided my consent and declaration to the matters explained in the importance notice. If you're happy to proceed, press Submit. Okay, congratulations, that's it, you are done. You have completed and submitted your declaration. Next, you should receive an email confirming your status. Now, just to recap, a green response with a tick means you do not need to quarantine on arrival. A blue response with an hourglass means you will need to quarantine on arrival. A red response with a cross means that your airline will decide if you can travel, and if you are able to, you will need to quarantine on arrival. I hope this video was able to help at least one person on their journey to filling out the Australia Travel Declaration. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. If there is a particular form you would like me to do a video on, leave a comment below. Okay, wishing you all the best on your travel plans to Australia. This is Helen Hotai, founder of Form Help, signing out. Have an amazing day, everyone.